Dawn breaks slowly over a rugged escarpment in eastern Africa, where the dry season has tightened its grip on the land. Pale light spills across the fractured cliffs and thorn-covered slopes, revealing a landscape shaped by heat, wind, and time. The air is cool for now, carrying the faint scent of dust and acacia sap. Below the cliffs, scattered grasslands stretch toward a narrow ribbon of woodland that follows a seasonal river, its water already shrinking under months without rain. High above the valley floor, a large raptor rides the early thermals. Broad wings held steady, the eagle circles with minimal effort, scanning the terrain with eyes adapted for extraordinary precision. From this height, movement is unmistakable. Small mammals in brush, reptiles warming themselves on stones, and the distant shapes of grazing antelope drifting through the morning haze. Far below, partially concealed among granite boulders and dry grass, another predator lies still. A female leopard, her golden coat broken by dark rosettes, rests in the shadow of a rock outcrop. Her movements are slow and deliberate. The rounded tension of her abdomen reveals the quiet burden she carries. Late in pregnancy, she must conserve energy, yet survival demands constant vigilance. The valley is a place where hunters watch hunters. Above, the eagle continues its silent patrol. Below, the leopard breathes slowly in the shade, every instinct tuned to the shifting sounds of the wild. The female leopard belongs to a lineage shaped by adaptability, known scientifically as Panthera pardus. The species occupies one of the widest geographic ranges of any large wild cat. Leopards have been documented across sub-Saharan Africa, parts of the Middle East, and large regions of Asia. Their success is not defined by size or brute strength alone, but by flexibility, an ability to survive in landscapes ranging from dense rainforest to open savanna and rocky desert escarpments, like the one stretching across this valley. Adult female leopards are typically smaller than males, averaging between 30 and 50 kilograms depending on region. Yet despite their lighter frame, they are among the most capable solitary predators in the carnivore guild. Their muscular forelimbs allow them to drag prey weighing more than their own body mass up into trees, a behavior rarely matched by other large predators. Their retractable claws and powerful hind legs provide explosive acceleration over short distances, an advantage when ambushing prey from cover. But pregnancy alters this balance. Gestation in leopards lasts roughly 90 to 105 days. During the final weeks, a female's mobility is reduced. Her energy demands increase, yet the risks associated with hunting grow significantly. A failed chase wastes precious calories. A poorly judged attack can lead to injury. For a pregnant leopard, even a minor wound can become life-threatening. Research from long-term field observations in regions such as the Sabi Sand Reserve and Serengeti ecosystem has shown that pregnant females often modify their behavior. They hunt smaller prey when possible, shorten their patrol ranges, and spend more time resting in concealed areas. Their focus gradually shifts from territorial defense to preparation for birth. Unlike lions, which rely on pride structures, leopards live almost entirely solitary lives. A female must handle every stage of reproduction alone: hunting, finding a secure den, giving birth, and protecting newborn cubs during their most vulnerable weeks. Mortality rates for leopard cubs are high, particularly during the first months of life. Hyenas, lions, and even large birds of prey may threaten unattended young. The landscape itself adds further pressure. The dry season compresses life toward remaining water sources. Herbivores gather in higher densities along shrinking rivers, but predators follow closely behind. Competition intensifies. A pregnant leopard moving through this environment must avoid not only the risk of injury, but also encounters with larger carnivores. Above this system moves another hunter entirely. Large eagles occupy the apex of the aerial food chain. In many African escarpment ecosystems, species such as Avero's eagle, Aquila veroxii, or the martial eagle, Polometus bellicosus, dominate the skies. These birds possess wingspans exceeding 2 meters and eyesight estimated to be several times sharper than that of humans. From hundreds of meters above ground, they can detect subtle movement, an ear twitching in grass, the flick of a reptile's tail, or the shadow of a rodent moving between stones. Yet their ecological roles differ sharply from those of ground predators. Eagles are primarily hunters of smaller animals: hyraxes, hares, small antelope calves, reptiles, and birds. They rely on gravity-assisted dives, striking prey with talons capable of exerting immense pressure. Their hunting success depends on patience and precision rather than endurance. Because of this, their interactions with large carnivores, such as leopards, are typically distant and cautious. A healthy adult leopard represents no opportunity for an eagle. Instead, the birds maintain altitude, observing the terrain as part of a complex web of overlapping awareness that characterizes wild ecosystems. Scientists studying predator behavior often describe this network as a landscape of fear and opportunity. Every animal, whether herbivore, carnivore, or scavenger, responds to signals from the environment, scent trails, movement patterns, alarm calls, and subtle shifts in activity. Raptors in the sky can indirectly influence ground behavior simply through their presence, just as terrestrial predators can alter the distribution of smaller animals that eagles hunt. For the pregnant leopard resting among the rocks, the valley is filled with such signals. Wind direction carries scents from kilometers away. Distant calls of baboons or antelope hint at possible disturbances. Even the silent circling of a raptor overhead may reveal something about the rhythms of life moving across the land. Every organism here occupies a precise place within a layered ecological structure. The leopard is a meso to apex predator, regulating populations of medium-sized herbivores and smaller mammals. Eagles shape populations of cliff-dwelling species, such as rock hyrax, which in turn influence vegetation patterns through grazing. The seasonal river dictates the movement of ungulates, which affects predator distribution and scavenger activity. These relationships are not guided by intention or cooperation. They are the outcome of evolutionary pressures refined over millions of years. Within this framework, pregnancy represents one of the most precarious phases of a leopard's life cycle. Studies using GPS collars and camera traps show that pregnant females often reduce their daily travel distance significantly, sometimes by more than half compared to non-pregnant individuals. They choose terrain that offers concealment, rocky outcrops, thick bush, or dry riverbanks with dense vegetation. Such places serve two purposes. They provide shade and protection during the final weeks of gestation, and later they may become den sites where cubs are hidden from predators. The leopard below the escarpment has already begun this transition. Her body is preparing for birth, while the surrounding ecosystem continues its relentless movement. Antelope graze in shifting clusters. Hyrax colonies chatter among the rocks. Vultures drift on high thermals far beyond the eagle's hunting circuit. Above it all, the raptor continues to circle, an observer shaped by its own evolutionary design, scanning a landscape where every life is connected through hunger, caution, and survival. The eagle above the escarpment belongs to a lineage of aerial predators refined for life at great height. Raptors such as the martial eagle, Polometus bellicosus, or the Vero's eagle, Aquila veroxi, dominate vast territories across African landscapes. Their wings are built for endurance. Long primary feathers spread wide across thermals rising from sun-warmed cliffs, allowing them to travel kilometers with only occasional wing beats. Energy efficiency is essential for a hunter that may spend hours searching before committing to a single strike. Vision is their greatest adaptation. The structure of a raptor's eye allows extraordinary resolution. Photoreceptor density within the retina enables detection of movement at distances that would appear empty to most other animals. Field studies estimate that large eagles can identify prey from well over a kilometer away when conditions are clear. This visual precision allows them to patrol enormous hunting ranges without descending unnecessarily. Despite their formidable appearance, these birds operate under strict energetic limits. A successful hunt may occur only once every few days. Failed attempts consume valuable energy, and prolonged scarcity can threaten even an apex raptor. Because of this, eagles rely heavily on predictability within their ecosystem, areas where prey species concentrate or follow reliable daily patterns. Along escarpments and rocky ridges, one of the most common prey animals is the rock hyrax, Procavia capensis. These small herbivorous mammals gather in colonies among cliffs and boulders. Their bodies are compact, their movements quick, but their vigilance is constant. Hyrax colonies maintain sentinels that watch the sky as well as the ground. When an eagle appears overhead, alarm calls spread instantly through the rocks, sending the animals diving into crevices. This tension between predator and prey shapes the behavior of both species. Eagles adjust their flight patterns to approach from directions where sunlight obscures their silhouette. Hyrax colonies choose complex rock formations that offer multiple escape routes. Over time, such pressures refine instincts on both sides. Survival favors those individuals able to detect danger seconds earlier or react just slightly faster. The same landscape is shared by other predators with very different strategies. Leopards hunt primarily through stealth and proximity. Their success depends on closing the distance before prey realizes a threat. Unlike eagles, they rely on cover, tall grass, shadowed rocks, thick bush. A leopard may spend long periods motionless, waiting for the moment when a grazing animal steps within striking range. These contrasting hunting styles rarely overlap directly, yet they intersect with the broader ecology of the environment. A leopard kill, for example, can influence aerial scavengers, such as vultures, which locate carcasses through visual detection of feeding activity. Eagles occasionally exploit such opportunities as well, particularly when small remains are left behind after larger predators finish feeding. Similarly, disturbances caused by ground predators can flush small animals into open areas where raptors may strike. This way, predator species form indirect networks of influence. The pregnant leopard resting near the rocks is part of this network. Even while conserving her strength, her physical condition now shapes her decisions carefully. Studies of radio-collared females in African reserves show that late-stage pregnancy alters daily movement patterns significantly. Instead of covering long distances during nighttime patrols, females often remain within small core areas where food sources and shelter are relatively predictable. Such behavior reduces energy expenditure, but also increases vulnerability to environmental pressures. Drought seasons, like the one gripping this valley, intensify competition for resources. Water holes shrink, herbivores cluster more tightly, and predator encounters become more frequent. Large carnivores respond differently to these conditions. Lions may increase cooperative hunts within prides. Hyenas expand their territories and search more aggressively for carrion. Solitary predators like leopards must navigate these shifts alone. For a pregnant female, avoiding confrontation becomes essential. Even if she could successfully defend herself, the risk of injury could threaten the survival of her unborn cubs. Observational research from protected areas in southern Africa shows that females close to giving birth often retreat into rugged terrain where larger predators are less comfortable moving. Steep slopes, broken rock formation, and narrow ledges offer escape routes that favor the agility of a leopard. The escarpment above the valley provides precisely such terrain. Cliffs rise sharply from the grasslands, fractured by centuries of erosion. Wind funnels through the stone corridors, carrying scents upward and downward along the rock face. Small mammals move through cracks and burrows. Hyrax colonies occupy sunlit ledges. Reptiles warm themselves on exposed surfaces as morning temperatures rise. This complex structure supports both predators in different ways. For the eagle, cliffs create ideal nesting sites. Large, thick nests, often reused for many years, are anchored to inaccessible ledges where few animals can reach them. From these elevated platforms, adult birds launch directly into rising thermals each morning, surveying enormous hunting territories that stretch far beyond the immediate valley. For the leopard, the same rocky structures provide concealment and potential den sites. Female leopards preparing for birth often search for narrow crevices, hollow tree trunks, or caves hidden within dense vegetation. These shelters must remain concealed not only from large carnivores, but also from scavengers and curious herbivores that might inadvertently reveal the den's location. During the first weeks after birth, leopard cubs are almost completely helpless. They are born blind and weigh less than 1 kilogram. The mother must leave them alone while hunting, returning frequently to nurse, and relocate them to new hiding places if danger approaches. Mortality during this early stage is high, making the choice of den location one of the most critical decisions in a leopard's reproductive cycle. The female resting among the rocks has likely begun assessing these possibilities. Her senses remain alert despite her stillness. Ears rotate toward distant sounds. The scent of antelope drifts faintly on the breeze. Far above, the eagle continues to circle, carried effortlessly by the rising currents of warm air. Neither predator acknowledges the other directly, yet both are responding to the same environmental signals. The shifting winds, the distribution of prey, the gradual intensification of heat as the dry season deepens. Their lives intersect within the same system, each governed by biological needs refined through countless generations. Nature does not operate through intention or coordination. What appears unusual or dramatic to human observers is often simply the outcome of instinctive responses to pressure, hunger, and survival. And in this valley, those pressures are quietly building. Survival in the wild rarely depends on a single advantage. It emerges from a complex balance between strength, caution, timing, and adaptation. The pregnant leopard lying among the rocks embodies this balance at one of the most delicate moments of her life cycle. Every decision she makes now, where to move, when to hunt, how long to rest, carries consequences not only for herself, but for the cubs developing within her body. Leopards evolved as masters of efficiency. Unlike endurance predators such as African wild dogs, they rely on short bursts of power. Their hunts are carefully calculated ambushes. A successful strike often begins with a silent approach through vegetation or along the edge of broken terrain, closing the distance to less than 20 meters before launching forward. At that range, explosive acceleration becomes their advantage. Strong hind legs propel the body forward, while the forelimbs wrap around prey in a powerful grip designed to destabilize the animal within seconds. But pregnancy shifts these calculations. Scientific observations from long-term monitoring programs have documented a measurable decline in hunting frequency during late gestation. The leopard must balance two conflicting pressures: the need for nourishment and the need to avoid injury. Larger prey, such as impala or young wildebeest calves, provide substantial energy but require greater risk. Smaller prey, hares, rodents, ground birds, demand less effort but must be captured more often to meet the same nutritional demands. This trade-off shapes the leopard strategy. Instead of roaming widely across her territory, she may concentrate around areas where prey density is naturally higher. Dry season riverbeds often become such locations. As water sources diminish, herbivores gather along shrinking channels where green vegetation remains. The concentration of animals increases hunting opportunities, but also draws competing predators. For a solitary leopard, discretion is essential. Studies using camera traps reveal that pregnant females frequently adjust their activity patterns to avoid dominant carnivores. They may hunt later at night or move through areas where dense vegetation offers rapid concealment. The goal is not only to catch prey, but also to remain unnoticed by larger threats that could force them into dangerous confrontations. High above the system, the eagle operates through a different set of biological priorities. Raptors represent a distinct branch of predatory evolution. Their hunting relies on vision, altitude, and gravity. When an eagle identifies potential prey, the strike unfolds in a precise sequence. Wings fold partially against the body as the bird begins controlled descent. Speed increases rapidly during the dive, sometimes exceeding 100 kilometers per hour, depending on the species and altitude. At the final moment, the eagle extends its legs forward. Large talons curve and sharpen through constant use, close with tremendous force. In species like the martial eagle, grip strength has been measured at levels capable of immobilizing animals weighing several kilograms. Smaller prey may die instantly from the impact or crushing pressure, yet the eagle must also calculate risk. An injured wing or damaged talon can mean starvation. Raptors therefore avoid unnecessary confrontations with animals capable of defending themselves. Adult predators, such as leopards, fall well outside the range of viable prey. Even young cubs are rarely targeted unless left exposed and unattended for long periods. Instead, the eagle's attention remains focused on animals that combine vulnerability with accessibility. Hyraxes basking on rocks, hares moving through open ground, reptiles warming themselves in sunlight. This selective pressure shapes the behavior of prey species in return. Rock hyrax colonies, for example, maintain complex social vigilance systems. Individuals positioned near the edges of a colony act as lookouts, scanning both sky and ground for danger. When an eagle appears, a distinct alarm call echoes across the rocks. The sound triggers an immediate response, dozens of animals vanishing into narrow crevices within seconds. Such interactions illustrate a broader principle within ecology known as the risk landscape. Every species perceives the environment through signals indicating potential threat. These signals influence where animals feed, rest, and travel. Over time, the constant adjustment to danger shapes movement patterns across entire ecosystems. The pregnant leopard is navigating this landscape carefully. Her instincts now extend beyond simple survival. Hormonal changes during late pregnancy heighten protective behavior and increase sensitivity to disturbances. Research on large felids has shown that females close to giving birth often react more strongly to unfamiliar scents or sudden sounds. This heightened awareness helps them detect potential threats to their future cubs. At the same time, fatigue becomes an unavoidable factor. Carrying developing cubs increases body mass and shifts the center of gravity slightly forward. Even subtle biomechanical changes can affect balance during rapid movement. For an ambush predator dependent on precision timing, such changes require constant adjustment. The leopard compensates by relying more heavily on terrain. Rocky outcrops provide vantage points where she can observe prey movement below without exposing herself. Dense patches of bush allow her to approach quietly if an opportunity arises. In this way, the landscape itself becomes part of her hunting strategy, reducing the need for long pursuits. Meanwhile, the eagle continues to trace wide circles above the valley. From its vantage point, the patterns of life below appear as shifting mosaics. Clusters of antelope drifting through grass, shadows moving among rocks, small animals emerging briefly before retreating again. Both predators are responding to the same environment, yet their worlds rarely intersect directly. One hunts from the sky with speed and precision. The other stalks the ground with patience and stealth. Their coexistence reflects the layered complexity of the ecosystem they share. Another dimension of survival in this landscape lies in instinctive timing, particularly in the lives of solitary predators raising young. For the female leopard, the weeks surrounding birth are among the most demanding phases of her existence. Unlike social carnivores that can rely on group defense, a leopard mother must manage every responsibility alone. She must secure food, conceal her cubs, and constantly evaluate the safety of her chosen den. Field studies using motion-triggered cameras have shown that female leopards often relocate their cubs every few days during the first month of life. This behavior helps prevent predators from discovering a fixed location through scent accumulation or repeated activity. Cubs are carried gently by the loose skin at the back of the neck, a method that temporarily suppresses their movement reflex and keeps them quiet during transport. The choice of den site is therefore critical. Ideal locations combine concealment with limited access. Narrow rock crevices, hollow tree trunks, or dense thickets provide natural barriers against larger predators such as lions and hyenas. The terrain along escarpments often offers these features in abundance. Broken stone formations create small cavities where scent disperses slowly and visual detection becomes difficult. But even the most carefully chosen den cannot eliminate all risk. Birds of prey, although rarely capable of harming adult leopards, possess a unique advantage: a broad aerial perspective. From high altitude, raptors detect patterns invisible to animals confined to ground level. Movement through open areas, repeated paths taken by prey, or subtle disturbances around rock formations can draw the attention of an eagle scanning the terrain below. This does not imply deliberate interaction between species. Raptors are guided by visual cues linked to hunting opportunities. Yet the presence of an eagle overhead can indirectly influence the behavior of many animals. Small mammals retreat into burrows. Birds fall silent in surrounding vegetation. Even predators occasionally pause when sudden shadow movements sweep across the ground. In ecological research, such reactions are part of a broader phenomenon called information flow within ecosystems. Animals constantly gather clues about their environment from the behavior of others. Alarm calls, sudden flight responses, and changes in activity patterns all transmit signals across species boundaries. For a leopard moving cautiously through her territory, these signals can reveal valuable information. If antelopes suddenly raise their heads and stare toward a distant thicket, something in that direction may have shifted. If birds erupt from dense brush, a predator or disturbance may be approaching. The landscape becomes a living network of observation. Above this network, the eagle continues its slow patrol. Its territory may extend over dozens of square kilometers. During the breeding season, a pair of eagles typically defends this aerial domain vigorously. ensuring reliable access to prey resources needed to raise their own chicks. Eagle nests, often constructed from thick sticks and lined with softer vegetation, can measure over a meter across. Many are reused for years, gradually growing larger as new material is added each season. Positioned high on cliff ledges or tall trees, these structures offer wide views of the surrounding terrain. Young eagles remain dependent on their parents for several months after hatching. During this time, adults must hunt frequently to provide sufficient food. Large prey such as hyraxes or small antelope can sustain nestlings for longer periods, but capturing them requires precise timing. As daylight intensifies and thermals strengthen, hunting conditions improve. Rising columns of warm air allow the eagle to gain altitude effortlessly, expanding its visual field across the valley. Below, the pregnant leopard eventually stirs from her resting place. Her movements are deliberate. She rises slowly, stretching powerful forelimbs against a stone surface before stepping forward along a narrow path between boulders. Each step is silent, the soft pads of her feet absorbing contact with the ground. Her senses probe the morning air. The scent of antelope lingers faintly along the valley floor. Farther away, the distant calls of baboons echo from woodland edges. These primates often serve as accidental sentinels for other animals. Their loud alarm calls can reveal the presence of predators moving through nearby trees or grass. But the leopard's attention remains focused on nearer terrain. The weight she carries demands caution. Sudden chases across open ground would expend too much energy. Instead, she moves toward areas where rock and vegetation offer concealment. From these vantage points, she can observe potential prey without exposing herself to unnecessary risk. Above her, the eagle drifts across the rising thermals once more, its shadow briefly sliding across the fractured stone. Two predators share the same sky and earth. Their lives intersect not through intention or cooperation, but through the quiet mechanics of an ecosystem shaped by survival, scarcity, and instinct. The sun climbs higher above the escarpment, and with it the air begins to warm rapidly. Heat rises from the exposed rock faces, forming steady thermals that carry the eagle farther across the valley. From above, the terrain reveals patterns invisible at ground level. Narrow animal paths threading through grass, clusters of grazing antelope shifting slowly toward shade, and the scattered shadows of boulders where small creatures seek refuge from the strengthening light. The leopard moves carefully along the base of the rocks. Her body remains low to the ground, each step controlled and silent. Pregnancy has slowed her pace, but her senses remain keen. The wind favors her direction, carrying the scent of animals grazing down the slope. Somewhere below, a small herd of impala feeds near the edge of the dry riverbed, their ears flicking constantly as they pull at the sparse green shoots that survive along the water's edge. For several minutes, the leopard watches from cover. Hunting now requires patience more than speed. A sudden chase could fail, leaving her exhausted and exposed in open terrain. Instead, she studies the movements of the herd, waiting for a moment when one individual drifts too far from the others. But the opportunity never fully forms. A young impala raises its head sharply, staring toward the rocks. Within seconds, the entire herd reacts. Muscles tighten, tails flick upward, and the animals bound away in powerful arcs, vanishing into grassland beyond the riverbed. Whether they detected the leopard's faint movement or caught a stray shift in the wind is impossible to know. The chance is gone. The leopard remains still for a long time after the herd disappears. Energy is precious now. Pursuit would have been futile once the alarm spread through the group. Slowly she lowers herself into the shade again, conserving strength. Above the valley, the eagle's wide circles tighten. From high altitude, the raptor has been observing a different pattern, one far smaller, but far more significant to its hunt. Near the cliffs, a colony of rock hyraxes has begun to emerge from crevices as the morning warmth spreads across the stone. The animals gather on sunlit ledges, their dark eyes scanning the surroundings while they feed on sparse vegetation growing between cracks in the rock. For the eagle, these moments are critical. Hyrax colonies rely heavily on vigilance, but even the most watchful sentinel cannot monitor every direction at once. The eagle adjusts its flight path subtly, drifting so that the bright sun remains behind its wings. Against the glare, its silhouette becomes difficult to detect from below. The descent begins almost invisibly. Wings tilt slightly as gravity takes over. Air rushes along the feathers while the eagle angles toward the cliff face. Speed builds quickly, transforming silent circling into controlled acceleration. On the rocks below, several hyraxes suddenly freeze. A shadow has shifted across the stone. One sentinel emits a sharp alarm cry, a piercing whistle that echoes against the cliff walls. Instantly, the colony reacts. Bodies scatter toward the nearest crevices as claws scrape against rock. But one animal lingers a fraction too long. The eagle strikes with explosive precision. Talons extend forward, seizing the hyrax before it can reach the safety of the rocks. The impact drives both predator and prey briefly against the slope before the eagle beats its wings powerfully, lifting away from the cliff with its catch secured. The entire event lasts only seconds. For the leopard resting below, the disturbance carries faintly through the valley. The sudden alarm calls of hyraxes, the brief rush of wings overhead. Her head lifts slightly, ears rotating toward the sound. Yet the moment passes quickly. Such events are common in landscapes where predators operate at every level. She settles once more against the rock, but the day is growing hotter. As midday approaches, the demands on her body intensify. The cubs within her continue to grow, drawing energy from every successful meal she has managed in recent days. Soon she will need to locate a den site, a secure place where birth can occur without disturbance. The escarpment offers possibilities. Narrow cracks between boulders, shallow caves hidden beneath thorny shrubs, and shadowed hollows formed by fallen rock provide natural shelters. Many may have been used before by other animals. Porcupines, small carnivores, or even previous generations of leopards. She rises again, moving deeper along the rocky slope. Above her, the eagle climbs back into thermals, carrying its captured prey toward a distant nesting ledge hidden high along the cliff face. For the raptor, the hunt has ended successfully. For the leopard, a different challenge is approaching. The rhythms of the ecosystem continue to unfold around them both. Heat presses down on the valley. Herbivores retreat toward shade. Smaller animals vanish into burrows and crevices. And somewhere within the broken stone of the escarpment, the leopard begins searching for the place where new life will soon enter the harsh balance of this landscape. By late afternoon, the character of the valley begins to change again. The harsh glare of midday softens as the sun tilts westward, casting long shadows across the escarpment. Temperatures fall slightly, and with the easing heat, movement slowly returns to the landscape. Small birds reappear among the thorn bushes, insects resume their steady hum, and distant antelope drift cautiously back toward the dry riverbed. For the leopard, this is the hour when decisions become unavoidable. Her search along the rocks has been deliberate. Several cavities within the escarpment offer shelter, but many carry the scent of other animals. A shallow cave shows signs of porcupine activity, scattered quills and disturbed soil marking recent occupation. Another crevice narrows too sharply, leaving little room to maneuver once cubs are born. She continues higher along the broken slope. Each step requires careful balance as loose stones shift under her weight. Pregnancy has slowed her climbing, but leopards are naturally adapted to rugged terrain. Their flexible spine and powerful limbs allow them to navigate narrow ledges that would challenge many other predators. Eventually, she pauses beside a cluster of large boulders fractured by years of erosion. Between them lies a narrow opening partially concealed by dry brush. The entrance slopes gently downward into darkness. A small hollow formed where fallen rock has created a protected chamber beneath the surface. The leopard lowers her head, testing the air. Inside, the space smells quiet and undisturbed. No recent scent of hyena, jackal, or porcupine lingers within the opening. The surrounding rocks provide shade through most of the day, while thick brush obscures the entrance from distant view. It is not perfect. Few places in the wild ever are, but it offers concealment, and concealment is often the most important defense for newborn cubs. The leopard slips cautiously inside. The chamber is small but sufficient. The ground is dry, lined with fine dust and fragments of weathered stone. After circling once, she settles briefly, her breathing slow as she absorbs the stillness of the place. Instinct may guide her here, but instinct is shaped by generations of survival decisions made by countless ancestors before her. Above the escarpment, the eagle has returned to its nest, perched on a high ledge far beyond the leopard's awareness. The raptor tears small pieces from a hyrax captured earlier. In the nest beside it, a growing chick waits with open beak, its down feathers stirring in the evening wind. Each successful hunt contributes to the slow development of the young bird that will one day leave the cliff and claim its own territory. Two predators, separated by distance and instinct, continue their lives within the same environment. As the sun sinks lower, golden light washes across the valley floor. The impala herd returns cautiously to graze among the tall grass. Baboons move towards sleeping trees along the woodland edge. The restless activity of daytime begins to settle into the quieter rhythms of evening. Inside the rock chamber, the leopard shifts slightly. Her body is approaching the final stage of pregnancy. In the coming days, perhaps even hours, labor may begin. During this time, she will remain hidden, emerging only when necessary to drink or hunt. Once the cubs arrive, her movements will become even more restricted as she guards them through their most fragile stage of life. The outside world continues its motion without pause. Above the cliffs, the eagle launches once more into the cooling air, gliding briefly across the valley before darkness approaches. Below, the leopard curls deeper into the shadowed den she has chosen. The climax in this landscape is not a sudden confrontation or dramatic encounter. It is the quiet moment when survival decisions take form, when a predator secures shelter for the next generation, and the balance of life in the valley prepares to continue through another cycle. Evening settles gradually across the escarpment. The fierce heat of the afternoon releases its hold on the valley, replaced by cooler air drifting upward from the grasslands below. Shadows lengthen across the rocks, filling narrow crevices and hollow spaces where animals begin to emerge once more from shelter. Inside the stone chamber, the leopard remains almost perfectly still. Her breathing is deeper now, the steady rhythm occasionally interrupted by subtle shifts of discomfort. The final hours before birth demand enormous energy from a large predator whose life normally depends on motion and control. Now she must surrender to a different biological process, one that has shaped the survival of her species for hundreds of thousands of years. Outside, the valley continues its routine. Antelope gather along the fading light of the riverbed. Baboons climb toward their sleeping trees along the woodland fringe. Small rodents slip between grasses, venturing out under growing safety of dusk. None of these animals are aware of the quiet transformation taking place within the rocks. Hours pass. The first cub is born deep in the night, within a concealed hollow. Leopard births are typically silent. Cubs emerge small, blind, and covered in soft gray fur that darkens as they grow. Each weighs less than a kilogram. Fragile compared with the powerful predator their mother will one day become. A second cub follows not long after. For a time, the leopard focuses entirely on them, cleaning their bodies with careful movements of her tongue, stimulating their breathing and circulation. The cubs instinctively crawl toward her warmth, guided by scent and touch alone. Within minutes, they begin searching for milk, their tiny paws kneading gently against her fur. This early bonding period is essential. Newborn cubs are unable to regulate their body temperature effectively, relying on their mother's warmth to survive the cool desert nights. For the next several days, she will rarely leave the den, conserving energy while the cubs strengthen enough to endure short periods alone when she must hunt. Morning returns slowly to the valley. High above the cliffs, the eagle launches from its nesting ledge shortly after first light. The chick in the nest is fed well from yesterday's hunt, and now rests beneath the watchful presence of its parent. Soon it will grow large enough to require even more frequent hunting trips, placing greater demands on the adult birds that patrol this territory. The eagle rises into morning thermals again, drifting across familiar routes carved by weeks of observation and instinct. From this height, the valley appears unchanged. Antelope graze. Hyrax colonies reemerge cautiously onto sunlit ledges. The same network of survival continues its daily rhythm. But beneath the rocks, the landscape now holds two new lives. For the leopard, the following weeks will become a delicate balance between protection and risk. Hunger will eventually force her to leave the cubs unattended while she hunts nearby. Each absence will carry danger. Hyenas, jackals, snakes, and even large bird of prey may investigate unusual scents or movements near the den. To counter this, leopard mothers rely heavily on secrecy. Camera trap studies across African reserves show that females often hunt within relatively small radii around the den during the first weeks after birth. They return frequently to nurse the cubs and may relocate them if any sign of disturbance appears. The cubs themselves remain quiet most of the time, their survival depending largely on remaining undetected. Physical recovery is also part of this aftermath. The energy required for pregnancy and birth leaves the leopard temporarily weakened. She must rebuild her strength through successful hunts while producing milk rich in nutrients for the growing cubs. Failure during this period can have serious consequences for both mother and offspring. Yet, this vulnerability is a natural phase within the cycle of large predators. Across the valley, other animals are experiencing similar transitions. Hyrax mothers nurse their own young within the rock colonies. Antelope calves remain hidden in tall grass during their first days of life. Even the eagle chick high on the cliff depends completely on its parents' hunting success. The ecosystem moves forward through these parallel struggles for survival. The first weeks after birth pass in quiet repetition. Within a concealed hollow of the escarpment, the leopard's cubs grow steadily stronger. Their eyes remain closed for several days, sealed by thin membranes that protect the developing structures beneath. During this early period, their world consists only of warmth, scent, and the rhythmic sound of their mother's breathing. The leopard rarely leaves them. For nearly a week, she remains close to the den, emerging only briefly at night to drink from a small seep along the rocks below. The cubs depend entirely on her milk, which contains high concentrations of fat and protein, nutrients essential for rapid development in carnivore young. During this stage, their bodies double in weight within a short span of time. Eventually, hunger forces a greater risk. One night, under the cover of darkness, the leopard slips quietly from the den entrance and descends a rocky slope. Her movements are cautious but purposeful. The valley below holds the same prey as before: impala, small antelope, and the occasional wandering hare. A short distance from the riverbed, she pauses, listening. In the silence, she hears the faint rustle of movement. A scrub hare feeds among the grasses, unaware of the predator approaching through the shadows. For a leopard, such small prey offers limited energy compared to larger antelope, but the hunt carries far less risk. The attack is swift. Within seconds, the hare is captured, its struggle brief. The leopard consumes most of it quickly before returning to the den. This pattern, short hunts for smaller prey, will continue for several weeks until the cubs are old enough for her to resume more demanding pursuits. Back in the rocky chamber, the cubs begin to change. Around the 10th day, their eyes open, revealing pale blue irises that will darken as they mature. Their movements become less clumsy as muscles strengthen. Soon they begin exploring the limited space of the den, stumbling over each other while testing their growing limbs. These early weeks are critical for neurological development. Studies of wild felids show that play behavior emerges surprisingly early. Even at a few weeks old, leopard cubs begin mock stalking and pouncing on one another. These actions are not random. They are the first rehearsal of skills that will one day determine their survival as hunters. The mother watches closely. She cleans them frequently, both to maintain hygiene and to reduce scent that might attract scavengers. When she senses unfamiliar odors drifting near the den entrance, she becomes alert instantly, ears forward, body tense, prepared to defend the narrow opening if necessary. But the escarpment remains quiet. Hyenas rarely climb into such steep terrain, and the dense brush obscuring the entrance prevents easy detection from the valley below. Even the eagle soaring above the cliffs notices nothing unusual among the rocks. Its attention remains fixed on the movements of hyrax colonies and other small animals scattered across the slopes. Weeks pass, and the cubs continue to grow. At roughly 6 weeks old, they begin venturing cautiously outside the den entrance under their mother's watchful gaze. Their coats have darkened, the rosette patterns becoming clearer against the golden fur. Sunlight touches their eyes for the first time as they step onto the warm stone ledge. For the leopard, this marks the beginning of a new phase. Soon she will move the cubs to different hiding places across her territory. Frequent relocation reduces the chance that predators or scavengers would detect their presence. Each journey will require carrying them one at a time, gripping the loose skin at the back of their necks while navigating through grass, rock, and brush. Above the valley, the eagle's own offspring is undergoing similar change. The chick on the high cliff has grown rapidly from its diet of hyrax and small mammals. Its wings are beginning to develop stronger flight feathers. Within a few months, it will stand at the edge of the nest and launch itself into the same thermals that carry its parents across the valley each day. Life continues along parallel paths. The leopard's cubs, still small and vulnerable, will face many dangers before reaching adulthood. Only a fraction of wild leopard cubs survive their first year. Drought, predators, disease, and accidents claim many young animals across the African landscape. But survival has never depended on certainty. It depends on persistence, on the ability of each generation to adapt, hunt, hide, and endure within the same unforgiving environment that shaped those before them. As the seasons turn and the dry winds slowly give way to distant storms, the valley continues its quiet cycle of survival. The leopard and her cubs will not remain in the hidden hollow forever. In time, the young will follow her through grasslands and rocky slopes, learning the silent discipline of a solitary hunter. They will watch how she moves with patience through the shadows, how she reads the wind, and how every decision in the wild carries consequence. Many lessons will come through failure, others through instinct written deep within their lineage. Few will be easy. Above the escarpment, the eagle's chick will one day leave the nest as well. Its first flight will carry it into the same currents that have long shaped life in the valley. From the sky, it will inherit the wide, searching vision of its species, watching the movement of prey far below, just as generations of raptors have done across these cliffs. Neither predator knows the other story. Their lives intersect only through the shared fabric of the ecosystem, rock, wind, prey, and the unbroken rhythm of hunger and survival. Each plays a role within the vast network of life that binds land, air, and water together. In this landscape, survival is not guided by intention or compassion. It is shaped by instinct, adaptation, and time. A leopard choosing a hidden den, an eagle circling on rising thermals. Two paths unfolding in the same valley. Nature does not celebrate victory or mourn loss. It simply continues, through birth, through struggle, and through the quiet persistence of life adapting to the world around it.